When night falls and sound withdraws, the archive remains. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. A stone holds heat, not as intention, not as storage in any design sense. The stone does not receive the sun's energy and decide to keep it. It receives, and the received energy distributes through its mass according to the thermal conductivity of the material. Slowly, in stone, more slowly than in metal, more slowly than in water, at the rate that the crystalline structure of the mineral permits energy to pass from one lattice point to the next. The sun moves across the sky. The stone receives. This is all that happens, and it is enough. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. Consider the surface of the stone at noon. The sun is high. The angle of incidence is steep. The light arrives nearly perpendicular to the horizontal face, delivering maximum energy per unit area. The surface absorbs a fraction of this and reflects the rest. The ratio determined by the stone's albedo, by its color and texture, by the microscopic geometry of its surface. Dark stone absorbs more. Pale stone reflects more. Neither chooses. The absorbed energy becomes heat. Not immediately. The conversion is continuous, incremental, a steady accumulation that raises the temperature of the surface layer first, then conducts inward. The surface is always hotter than the interior. The interior is always catching up. At noon, the surface may be 30 degrees warmer than the stone's core. The gradient is real, is measurable, exists as a physical fact inside the stone with no external indication. The stone appears uniform. Inside, it is a record of the last several hours of sun. Heat moves inward at a rate specific to the material. Granite conducts differently than sandstone. Limestone differently than basalt. Each mineral composition produces a different depth of thermal penetration, a different lag between surface heating and interior response. A stone that has sat in sun for 6 hours holds a thermal history that a geologist could read, not in the stone's composition, which records millions of years, but in its temperature distribution, which records only today. The stone is two archives simultaneously, one measured in epochs, one measured in hours, neither aware of the other. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The sun descends. The angle of incidence shallows. The same quantity of light spreads across a larger surface area as the angle decreases, delivering less energy per unit area. The stone continues to absorb, but absorbs less than it did at noon. The surface temperature, which had been rising, begins to plateau, not yet falling. The stone is still receiving more than it is losing to the air above, but no longer climbing at the rate it climbed through the morning. There is a moment in the late afternoon when input and output reach equilibrium. The stone receives from the sun exactly what it loses to the air. Surface temperature holds. The stone is at its maximum for the day, not because the sun is at its highest. That was hours ago, but because the balance between absorption and emission has just now reached zero. This moment passes without announcement. The sun continues to descend. Input decreases further. Now the stone loses more than it gains. The surface begins to cool, but the interior, which has been receiving the surface's heat conducted inward all day, is still warming. The surface cools while the core continues to rise. For a period in the early evening, the stone's interior is warmer than its surface for the first time since morning. The gradient reverses. What had been flowing inward all day begins, slowly, to flow back out. The stone that spent the day absorbing begins the night releasing, not all at once, not dramatically, in the same slow way it absorbed, incrementally, continuously, at the rate the material permits. The direction of heat inside the stone has changed without any visible sign. The stone looks the same. The stone is the same. Only the direction of the energy's movement has shifted. Inward all morning, inward all afternoon, and now, in the cooling evening, outward. A process that ran one way for 10 hours has reversed. Nothing on the surface announces this. The reversal is interior, invisible, proceeding at the pace of conduction through mineral, which is the pace of patience made physical. Place a hand on the stone after sunset. The air is cool, the stone is warm. The warmth that reaches the hand is not the warmth of the sun. The sun is gone, has been gone for an hour, for 2 hours, for the time it takes the sky to pass through its colors and arrive at dark. The warmth in the stone is older than the dark. It is the sun's energy, delayed, stored in the mineral lattice and now conducting outward through the stone's surface into the cooler air, into the hand that rests against it. The hand receives heat that left the sun 8 minutes before it struck the stone, that entered the stone hours ago, that has been traveling inward through the mineral structure since morning, that is now traveling back out. The warmth is old. It does not feel old. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The stone does not know it is releasing. It has no mechanism for intention. It has thermal conductivity, specific heat capacity, the tendency of energy to move from regions of higher concentration to regions of lower concentration, from the warm interior toward the cooler surface, from the warm surface toward the cooler air. This tendency requires no decision. It is the direction that physics moves in, always, without exception, without the possibility of reversal under these conditions. The stone releases because release is what physics does when the gradient points outward. There is no other reason. There does not need to be. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. The stone is not uniform in its release. The face that received the most sun, the south-facing surface, if the stone is in the northern hemisphere, the face most directly exposed to the arc of the sun's passage, holds more heat than the face that was in shadow. The shadow face absorbed less. It cooled faster through the afternoon. It may already be at equilibrium with the night air while the sun face is still warm, still radiating, still completing the transaction that the day began. A stone has aspects. Each aspect holds a different record of the same day. The top surface, horizontal, received the overhead sun at noon. The south face received the low-angle sun of morning and evening, the full arc of the day's light at its most direct. The north face may have received no direct sunlight at all. only the diffuse radiation scattered by the atmosphere, cooler and less energetic than direct beam. The east face holds the memory of morning. The west face holds the memory of afternoon. Run a hand across these faces in the dark. The temperature differential between them is small. A degree, perhaps 2, perhaps less. But it is there. The stone is not a uniform object in the dark. It is a record of the day's geometry, of the angles at which light arrived, of the duration of exposure at each surface. In the dark, with no light to show which face is which, the hand reads what the eye cannot. The stone is legible in the dark. The language is temperature. The text is the day. A single stone in the dark is a map of the sun's passage. Not the sun's position now, but the sun's position across the full arc of the day, recorded in differential warmth across 6 faces. Readable only by touch, readable only after dark, when the air has cooled enough that the stone's residual warmth becomes distinct from the ambient temperature. The stone does not know it is a map. The hand that reads it does not need to know it is reading. What the hand finds is not information in any conscious sense. It is warmth and its absence, texture and its variation, the small temperature differences that correspond to nothing visible, to nothing that could be pointed at in daylight and named. The map exists only in the dark. In daylight, the sun falling on all faces simultaneously obscures the differential that darkness reveals. The stone's record of the day is legible only after the day has ended. The record becomes readable at the moment of its own dissolution. This is not irony. This is the stone's only timing. There is a particular quality to the warmth of stone at night. It is not the warmth of fire which is active, which involves ongoing combustion, which produces light alongside heat. It is not the warmth of an animal body, which generates heat continuously through metabolism, which requires fuel and oxygen and produces waste. Stone warmth is passive. It is the warmth of something that received and is now returning. It does not generate. It releases what it was given. This distinction matters in the dark. Fire warmth says, something is happening here now. A process is underway. There is a source. Stone warmth says, something happened here earlier, and the record of it is still present in the material. The fire is present tense. The stone is past tense made tangible. A hand on warm stone at night is a hand in contact with the completed day, with the hours of light that are now dark, with the sun that is now below the horizon, with the energy that traveled 93 million miles and was absorbed into this particular mineral and is now, finally, returning to the air from which the stone received nothing. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The stone cools through the night at a rate determined by its mass and composition and the temperature of the surrounding air. A large stone cools slowly. Its thermal mass is high. The ratio of surface area to volume is low. The heat stored in its interior takes longer to conduct to the surface and radiate away. A small stone cools faster. A thin slab loses its day's heat before midnight. A boulder may still be warm at dawn, still releasing, still completing a transaction that began 20 hours earlier. Mass determines duration. Duration is not warmth's intensity. It is warmth's persistence. By midnight, the surface of the stone has reached the temperature of the air, not the interior. The interior may still hold warmth, the gradient may still exist, the slow conduction outward may still be proceeding, but the surface has given back what it held. The exchange with the air is complete at the surface. What remains is only the interior's contribution, arriving too slowly at the surface to maintain a measurable differential. The stone is now to the hand the same temperature as the night. This is not absence. The stone has not become cold in any absolute sense. It has reached equilibrium with its environment. It is as warm as the air. It is as cool as the air. These are the same temperature. The distinction between the stone and the air is no longer thermal. It is only material. The stone is denser. The air is lighter. Both are at the same temperature. Equilibrium is not emptiness. Equilibrium is the completion of a transaction. The heat that entered the stone this morning has left it now, has distributed into the air, has joined the larger thermal mass of the atmosphere, has become part of the temperature of this particular night in this particular place. The stone gave it back, not all at once, over the course of hours, incrementally, continuously, at the rate the material and the conditions permitted. The transaction is complete. The stone holds nothing that the air does not also hold. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. Before dawn, the stone may be cooler than the air. This is not contradiction. As night deepens, the stone, having released its stored heat, radiates to the sky. If the sky is clear, if no cloud layer returns the stone's infrared radiation back to the surface, the stone loses energy to the open sky, to the cold of space above the atmosphere. The air near the surface does not cool as fast. The air has its own thermal mass, its own stored heat from the day, its own slow release. The stone, having nothing left to give, begins to receive from the air instead. The gradient reverses again. What was warmer than air is now cooler than air. The same mechanism, the tendency of energy to flow from warm to cool, now runs in the opposite direction. Air warms stone. The stone that spent the day receiving from the sun and the evening releasing to the air, now in the cold hour before dawn receives again. This time from the air that the sun warmed, not from the sun itself. The stone does not distinguish between sources. It receives what arrives. It holds what it receives. It releases when the gradient reverses. This is the stone's full cycle, completed in a single day. Absorption, storage, release, overcooling, reception. 5 phases. No phase chosen. Each phase the necessary consequence of the previous one. Each the preparation for the next. The day is written in the stone and erased by morning. By noon tomorrow, the writing will have begun again. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. A stone rests. The night is at its deepest. The temperature differential between stone and air is small or absent or reversed. The thermal record of yesterday's sun has nearly completed its dispersal into the atmosphere. What the stone holds now is not the record of the day. That record is gone, returned to the air, untraceable. What the stone holds now is its own, its mass, its composition, its crystalline structure, the mineral arrangement that determines how it will receive tomorrow's light, how quickly it will conduct that energy inward, how long it will hold the day before returning it. The stone is prepared. It does not know this. Preparation in the stone is not readiness in any intentional sense. It is simply the condition of the material, its specific heat, its thermal conductivity, its surface geometry, its orientation toward the place where the sun will rise. These properties exist whether or not the sun comes. They existed before the first time this stone received light. They will exist after the last time. The stone does not wait. Waiting implies awareness of the interval. The stone occupies the interval without marking it. Before dawn, cool, still, at equilibrium or slightly below. The surface holds no warmth that the hand could find. The interior holds no gradient that an instrument in this room could read. The stone is, in this hour, as close to thermally neutral as it will be in any hour of the day, as close to the condition of having neither received nor given. This is not the stone's natural state. The stone has no natural state. It has only its current state and the properties that will determine how that state changes when conditions change. The sun will rise, the stone will receive. The record will begin again in the mineral, silently, without ceremony, in the same way it has begun every morning since the stone was formed and cooled and came to rest in this particular place, at this particular angle, facing the particular direction it faces. The stone will not remember this night. The stone will not remember any night. Each morning it receives as though for the first time, because for the stone there is no first time and no last time. Only the current state of the material under the current conditions, responding as the material always responds, holding what it holds, releasing when release is what the gradient requires. Nothing is stored yet. Nothing needs to be. The stone is what it is in the dark, and what it is in the dark is enough. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. When night falls, the archive remains. When night falls and sound withdraws, the archive remains. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. A rope is suspended between 2 points. It does not hang loosely. It is held taut, not rigid, not motionless, but under continuous tension, the fiber pulled by the distance between its anchor points and by the weight of the rope itself, each strand maintaining the curve that physics requires when a mass is suspended between two supports at a height. The curve is not decoration. It is the shape that tension takes when it must also accommodate weight. It is the only shape this rope under these conditions can have. The rope does not choose this shape. The shape is what the forces require. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. The rope is twisted. Multiple strands, each itself a twist of smaller fibers, wound together in the opposite direction from the twist of the individual strands. A construction that causes the strands to lock against each other under tension, each one preventing the others from unwinding, the whole structure becoming stronger under the load that would unravel its components if they were separate. The twist is structural. The twist is why the rope holds. Under tension, the rope's structure reveals itself. The individual strands press against each other. The fibers within each strand press against each other. Every point of contact between fiber and fiber, strand and strand, is a point where the load is distributed, where the tension that would break a single thread is shared across hundreds. The rope is not strong because it is thick. It is strong because it is many things wound together, each one made stronger by the winding. Twist is multiplication. A rope is not a material. A rope is a relationship between materials sustained by tension. At the anchor points, the rope meets the structure that holds it, stone or wood, or the threshold of a gate, some fixed object that accepts the rope's tension and returns it as resistance. The anchor does not pull, it refuses to move. The rope pulls and the anchor refuses, and in that refusal the tension is born, travels the length of the rope, holds every strand against every other strand, maintains the curve, sustains the boundary. Without the anchor, there is no tension. Without the tension, there is no rope. There is only fiber, lying in the shape of what it used to be. Consider the space the rope divides. Before the rope was placed, the space was continuous. Air moved through it. Light fell across it. A person could walk through it in any direction without encountering an obstruction of any significance. The space had no interior and no exterior because it had no boundary. It was simply space, undifferentiated, extending in all directions until it met walls or distance or the horizon. The rope changed none of this physically. The air still moves through the space on both sides of the rope. Light still falls on both sides equally. The rope itself is thin, a few centimeters of twisted fiber in a space that extends for meters, for dozens of meters, in every direction. The rope's physical obstruction is negligible. A hand could reach through it. A bird could fly through it. The wind passes through it, causes it to move, and continues on the other side unchanged. And yet the space is now divided, not by physical obstruction, by demarcation. The rope declares that what is on one side is different from what is on the other, not because the rope changes either side, but because the rope exists between them. The boundary is real. It is made of twisted fiber and tension and the weight of what hangs from it. It is also made of nothing that was not already there. The same air, the same light, the same space. The rope adds the minimum possible material and produces a maximum possible consequence. The creation of inside and outside where before there was only through. The boundary is the rope. The rope is almost nothing. Almost nothing is sufficient. Two sides of the same air. One designated, one not. The designation is the only difference. The designation is everything. Breath enters. Breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. What hangs from the rope? In many cases, paper. White paper, folded in a specific pattern, cut at specific intervals, producing a form that is not origami, not a figure, not a representation of anything, but a structure of folds and cuts that causes the paper to hang open, to present multiple surfaces to the air, to move in the wind in a way that solid paper would not. The paper is prepared. Its preparation is not inscription. Nothing is written on it. The cuts and folds are its content. The paper hangs from the rope at intervals. It is not uniformly spaced. The intervals are not random. They follow a pattern that has been followed for longer than the pattern has been explained. A pattern that exists in the practice of those who make these ropes and hang this paper. A pattern that precedes the articulation of any reason for the pattern. The spacing is the spacing because it has always been the spacing, and what has always been done carries its own authority, which is not the authority of explanation, but the authority of continuation. The paper moves. This is important. The rope holds position. The paper moves. The same wind that the rope resists causes the paper to turn, to catch the air, to present one face and then another. The paper is not decorative in the sense of being static. It is active in the sense of being responsive. It responds to the air by moving with the air, showing the air's presence by moving in it, making visible the wind that would otherwise pass through the space without evidence. The paper is the rope's instrument for reading the air. The rope holds. The paper reports. What the paper reports is not the wind's direction or speed. It reports neither with any precision. What it reports is simpler, the presence of movement in the air. When the paper moves, air is moving. When the paper is still, the air near the rope is still. The paper converts the invisible into the visible, not through any sophisticated mechanism, but through the simple fact of being light enough to respond to forces that would not move heavier things. The paper is lighter than the wind. This is its only qualification. This is sufficient. The rope has been here through seasons. Weather has touched it. Rain has wet the fibers, and the drying has tightened them, compressed the twist, drawn the strands closer together. Cold has made the fiber stiff. Heat has made it more compliant. Each cycle of wet and dry, cold and warm has changed the rope in small ways, altered the tension slightly, shifted the curve by fractions, changed the color from its original pale to the gray-brown that long exposure produces in natural fiber. The rope carries this time in its appearance, not in any way that can be read precisely. The color does not indicate the exact number of years. The texture does not record the sequence of seasons. The curve does not encode the history of winds. The rope shows that time has passed without showing how much. It is aged. The age is visible. The amount is not. This is different from measurement. Measurement requires precision. What the rope shows is not precise. It is present. The boundary that the rope creates is not the boundary it created when it was new. It is the same boundary, same location, same span, same division of space into two sides, but it has been maintained through seasons of weather, through the slow degradation of fiber, through the replacement of what cannot hold by what can. At some point, perhaps several times, some portion of the rope was renewed, new fiber alongside old fiber, or old rope removed and new rope placed, the tension re-established, the boundary restored. The boundary is continuous. The rope is not continuous. The rope has been replaced. The boundary has not been interrupted. What continues is not the material. What continues is the demarcation. The fiber that holds the tension tonight is not the fiber that first held it. The tension is the same tension. The boundary that this tension maintains is the same boundary. Material and meaning have been separated deliberately, repeatedly, by the act of renewal. The understanding that the thing worth preserving is not the rope, but what the rope does. And what the rope does can be done by new rope as well as old, provided the new rope is placed correctly, provided the tension is restored, provided the curve returns to the shape the forces require. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. At night, the rope is still there. The paper has stopped moving. The wind at night is different, slower, less directional, more a settling of air than a movement of it. The paper hangs more nearly still, presenting one face to the dark, receiving no light that would show its cuts and folds. The paper is present. It is not performing. The rope holds its tension. Tension does not require daylight. The anchor points hold the rope in the dark as they hold it in the light. The rope's weight presses down on the curve. The curve presses outward on the anchor points. The anchor points resist. The tension is maintained. The boundary exists. Nothing crosses the rope, not because the rope prevents crossing. It cannot. Its physical presence is too slight to prevent determined passage. But the rope does not prevent. The rope marks. And what the rope marks is honored not by the rope's physical resistance, but by the recognition that what the rope marks is real, that the boundary is real, that the difference between inside and outside is real, that the rope did not create this difference but made it legible, made it present to anyone passing near enough. To see twisted fiber suspended between 2 points in the air, the rope is thin. What it marks is not thin. The thinness of the rope and the weight of what it marks exist simultaneously. Neither diminishes the other. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. Consider what tension requires. 2 points, separated by distance. A material capable of sustaining load without breaking. A weight or span sufficient to create the load. Nothing else. Tension is the simplest of structural conditions, simpler than compression, which requires a material strong enough to resist being crushed. Simpler than bending, which requires resistance to forces that would rotate the material around a point. Tension requires only that the material hold together while being pulled in opposite directions. The rope holds together. This is all that tension asks. The rope provides it. In providing it, the rope becomes something more than fiber. It becomes the visible form of a relationship between 2 points. A relationship that did not exist before the rope was placed, that exists only because something spans the distance, that would cease to exist if the spanning material were removed. The 2 anchor points were there before the rope. They were not in relationship before the rope. The rope created the relationship by accepting the tension between them. The rope is the relationship made physical. Remove the rope and the anchor points remain, unchanged in distance from each other, unchanged in their capacity to hold a rope if a rope were placed between them. But they are no longer in relationship. They are 2 points, each complete in itself, separated by space that contains nothing that connects them. The rope's presence is the connection. The rope's absence is 2 unrelated points. These are not similar conditions. A relationship made of fiber, sustained by the willingness of stone to hold, expressed as a curve in the air between 2 fixed things. The curve is the relationship's shape. The tension is the relationship's force. The fiber is the relationship's material. None of these 3 is the relationship. The relationship is what they produce together, suspended between the anchor points, visible from a distance, present in the dark. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. There is a quality to the space on this side of the rope. It is not a physical quality. The air is the same temperature, the same composition, moving at the same speed in the same directions, carrying the same particles in suspension as the air on the other side. The light falls identically on both sides. The rope casts a shadow, but the shadow is thin and moves with the sun. And at night, there is no shadow at all, only the rope and the dark on both sides equally. The quality is not in the air, the quality is in the demarcation. To be on this side of the rope is to be in a defined space, a space that has been given an inside, a space whose boundary is marked and maintained, a space that is not simply the extension of the world in all directions, but a portion of the world that has been distinguished from the rest. The distinction was made by placing twisted fiber between 2 anchor points and maintaining the tension that holds the fiber taut. The distinction is real. It is maintained by tension. It would end if the tension ended. The inside of the rope is inside because the rope holds. The rope holds because the tension holds. The tension holds because the anchor points hold. The anchor points hold because stone holds, because wood holds, because what was fixed here holds. The chain of dependency extends backward into the material. The inside of the rope rests on stone. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The rope is suspended between 2 points. It has been there through the change of light from day to dark. It will be there through the change from dark to day. The fiber holds its tension. The paper hangs in the still air, not moving now, not reporting any wind, because there is no wind to report, present in its stillness as it was present in its movement. The boundary exists, not because anything enforces it, not because the rope's physical presence prevents passage, because the rope was placed here by hands that understood that some things require a boundary, that a boundary requires a material, that a material requires tension, that tension requires 2 points willing to hold against each other across a distance. The willingness of the anchor point is not willingness. It is stone. It is wood. It is the fixed thing that does not move. But its function is indistinguishable from willingness. It holds, and in holding, makes the boundary possible. The rope does not mark sacred space. The rope does not mark anything that can be named without the naming changing what it is. The rope marks the place where the marking is. This is sufficient. Consider what the rope has done simply by being placed. It has taken 2 anchor points and made them face each other across a distance. It has taken a space and given it an inside. It has taken air, which is continuous, which extends without boundary in all directions, and divided it into this air and that air, not different in composition, not different in temperature or movement or any physical property, different only in where they stand relative to the rope. The rope does not judge the air on either side. The rope only spans. The spanning is the act. The act is complete. The tension holds through the night. The paper is still. The boundary is where it has always been. Nothing crosses. Nothing needs to. The rope is not a door. The rope is the place where inside becomes aware of itself by having an outside to face. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. When night falls, the archive remains. When night falls and sound withdraws, the archive remains. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. A piece of wood has been carved, not into the shape of a face, into a specific face with specific proportions, specific depths of hollow and height of plane. The geometry determined by the carver over weeks of work with tools of graduated fineness, each pass of the blade removing material that cannot be returned. The wood is hinoki, Japanese cypress. It is a wood of fine grain, of even density, of a resistance to the blade that is neither too soft nor too hard, a wood that allows precision without requiring force, that holds the edge of a cut cleanly, that does not split along unexpected grain when the chisel enters at a shallow angle. The carver did not begin with a face in mind. The carver began with the wood. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. What does the carver remove? The face is in the wood before the carving begins, in the sense that the wood contains all possible faces. Any face could be found in a block of sufficient size by the removal of everything that is not that face. The carver's task is not creation, it is selection. The carver selects from the infinite faces available in the wood one face and removes everything else. What is removed is not wasted. What is removed is the condition of what remains. The hollow of the eye socket is not carved. The hollow is what remains after the surrounding material is taken away. The prominence of the cheekbone is not built up. The cheekbone is what remains after the flesh of the cheek below it is reduced. Every feature of this face is a subtraction, not an addition. Every depth is the result of what was taken from around it. The face is the wood that survived the carver's selection. Carving is not making. Carving is revealing by removal. What is revealed was always there waiting in the grain. The cheeks are slightly hollowed, not deeply. The hollowing is measured in millimeters, in the small fractions of millimeter that the finest tools achieve. The hollowing does not announce itself. It is the kind of hollowing that, in living tissue, would be caused by age or illness, or the slow redistribution of mass that time produces in the face. In wood, it is caused by intention, by the carver's decision, made at some hour in some day of the weeks of work. to remove this much material from this location and no more. The decision is irreversible. The wood does not accept addition. Every cut is permanent. The surface is prepared. After carving, the wood is primed. Layers of a white substance, ground shell mixed with animal glue to a consistency that allows it to be applied thinly and evenly, are built up on the carved surface, one thin coat at a time. Each coat sanded when dry before the next is applied. The layers fill the grain of the wood, which would otherwise show through any paint applied directly. The layers build up a new surface on top of the carved surface, a surface that is no longer wood, that is smooth and white and receives paint in an entirely different way than wood receives paint. The priming takes weeks. Each layer is thin enough to preserve the carved form exactly. The accumulated layers do not change the face's geometry. The hollows remain at exactly the depth the carver left them. The planes remain at exactly the height the removal of surrounding material determined. The priming only changes the surface quality, not the surface location. It covers without adding. When the priming is complete, the white surface is ready. It holds no color yet. It holds only the form of the carved face, expressed now in white, in the smooth material that will receive what comes next. The face in white is a particular object. It is the face at the moment before it becomes what it will be. The face before the carver's decisions about color have been made. The face in its most neutral state. White contains no color. White contains all color as possibility. The primed face is at its most open at the moment before the first color is applied. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. Color is applied. The pigments are mineral, ground stone and shell, the same materials that have been used for this purpose for as long as this kind of face has been made. Pigments that do not fade as organic dyes fade, that hold their color across the decades and centuries, that this face will outlast the carver, outlast the painter, outlast the hands that will hold it in performances not yet imagined. The colors do not create what they depict, they locate it. The red at the inner corner of the eye, a small amount precisely placed, does not make the eye look red. It locates the inner corner, creates a focal point, draws the attention of anyone looking at the face to that particular location in a way that bare white would not. The slight darkening at the hollow of the cheek does not make the cheek look dark. It deepens the hollow, emphasizes the three-dimensionality that the carving created, reinforces in color what the carver established in form. The painter works with what the carver left. The painter cannot add depth. The painter can only make visible the depth already there. Consider the painter's restraint. A less practiced hand would add more, would darken the hollows further, would redden the lips more deeply, would make the readings easier by making the signals stronger. The practiced painter does the opposite. The practiced painter adds the minimum that the carving requires. Too much color overwhelms the shadow. The pigment becomes the face rather than the carving. Too little color leaves the carving unsupported. The transitions between planes are lost in uniform white. The correct amount of color is the amount that allows the shadow to remain the primary information. The painter serves the shadow serves the carving serves the wood. When the color is complete, the face is finished. It is what it will be for as long as the wood holds, which in hinoki, properly maintained, is centuries. The carver and painter have made something that will outlast them without their assistance. The face will not need to be repainted. The pigments will not fade. The wood will not warp significantly if it was properly seasoned before carving, if the priming was done correctly, if the face is kept from excessive moisture and heat. The face is complete. It does not know this. Completion is a condition the maker observes, not the object. Breath enters. Breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The face is placed in a box, not as storage. The box is the face's proper location when the face is not in use. The box is made for this face specifically, cut to the face's dimensions, lined with cloth that receives the face's contours without pressing against the painted surface, protecting the priming and pigment from contact with hard materials. The box closes. The face is in the dark. In the dark, the face is what it has always been. The carved hollows are there. The primed surface is there. The mineral pigments in their precise locations are there. The geometry of the carved form, the angles of the planes, the depths of the hollows, the heights of the prominences, is all there, unchanged, in the same configuration it has held since the carver's last pass of the blade, since the painter's last touch of the brush. Nothing requires light to persist. The form persists in the dark as it persists in the light. The face in the box is the same face as the face in use. What changes in the dark is not the face. What changes is the possibility of the face being read. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. Consider the face under light. A light source, a candle, a lamp, the diffuse light of an overcast sky coming through a window, falls on the carved surface. The surface receives the light. Where the surface faces the light source directly, it receives more light and returns more. Where the surface angles away from the light source, it receives less and returns less. Where the hollows drop below the surrounding planes, the light reaches less easily. The surrounding planes cast small shadows into the hollows, and the depth of the shadow depends on the angle between the light source and the carved surface. The hollow of the eye socket receives the shadow cast by the brow above it. When the light source is above and slightly in front, the brow casts a shadow downward and backward into the socket. The shadow deepens the hollow. The hollow that the carver made at a specific depth appears deeper than it is, because shadow adds apparent depth to physical depth. The eye appears to recede. Now the light shifts. The light source moves to the side, or the face tilts relative to the light source, which produces the same change in the geometric relationship between light and carved surface. The shadow that fell from the brow now falls at a different angle. The hollow of the socket catches more light on one side, less on the other. The apparent depth of the eye changes. Not the physical depth, the carver's hollow is what it is, but the apparent depth, the depth as expressed in the distribution of light and shadow across the carved form. face has not moved. The face looks different. This is not illusion in the sense of deception. It is the accurate rendering of a changed geometric relationship between light, surface, and observer. When the light shifts, the face shifts too. Accurately, inevitably, as any three-dimensional surface shifts in appearance when the light that falls on it changes angle. The face is doing what all three-dimensional surfaces do. It is doing it with a precision that allows the shift to be read as something more than the physics they are. What the physics produces in this face is the appearance of a change in inner state. The same physical face, a different shadow distribution, a different reading. Who reads the face? The face does not read itself. The face has no inner state. The face is wood, primed with ground shell, painted with mineral pigment, held together by the adhesive properties of the animal glue that binds the priming to the wood. It has no capacity for the states that its appearance suggests. It has only the appearance, the carved geometry that interacts with light to produce shadow distributions that observers looking at the face interpret as expressions of inner states. The interpretation is not wrong. The face does not correct it. An observer looking at the face from slightly below, with light falling from above, sees the brow shadow deepen into the eye socket, sees the slight hollowing of the cheeks made more pronounced by downward shadow, sees the lower lip emerge from shadow as the chin recedes into it. The observer sees something. The something the observer sees is real. It is the accurate perception of a real physical configuration of shadow and light. What the observer calls that something is their own contribution. The face contributes the geometry. The observer contributes the reading. The face is completed by the one who looks at it. Without an observer, the face is carved wood under light, a three-dimensional surface producing shadow distributions that have no audience. With an observer, the same physics becomes legible, becomes a face that is experiencing something, becomes an object that appears to have an interior. The interior is not in the face. The interior is in the observer. The face makes it visible. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. The face in the dark requires no observer. The box is closed. The carved geometry holds its configuration. The hollows are at their depth. The planes are at their height. The mineral pigments are in their precise locations. All of this continues without light, without observation, without anyone to complete the face by looking at it. The face is waiting in the sense that a stone in the ground is waiting, which is to say it is not waiting. It has no capacity for anticipation. It simply persists in its configuration until conditions change. Waiting requires awareness of the interval. The face occupies the interval without marking it. When the box opens, light enters. The light reaches the carved surface. The surface produces shadow distributions determined by the angle of the light and the geometry of the carved form. If an observer is present, the observer reads the face. The face does not change to accommodate the reading. The face does not prepare itself for observation. The face is what it was in the box. The same wood, the same priming, the same pigments, the same carved geometry. Now under light, now in the presence of someone capable of completing it. The box opening is not the face's awakening. The box opening is the restoration of the conditions under which the face can be read. The face was never asleep. The face was only in the dark. Breath enters. Breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. There is one more thing about the carved geometry. The carver did not make a face that reads clearly from one angle. The carver made a face that reads differently from every angle, that produces different shadow distributions, different apparent expressions, different readings depending on the height and direction of the light source and the position of the observer. This is not accident, it is the point. A face that reads the same from every angle is a mask in the ordinary sense, a fixed appearance, a statement, a conclusion. What the carver made is not a fixed statement. It is a range of possible statements, each one available at a different angle, each one real, each one the accurate perception of what the carved geometry produces under those specific conditions. The face holds multiple truths simultaneously, not because it is ambiguous, because it is precise. The precision of the carving is what allows multiple accurate readings to exist at once. The same physical form producing genuinely different perceptions depending on how it is met. The carver did not carve ambiguity. The carver carved a form whose geometry is exact enough that slight changes in the relationship between light and observer produce genuinely different appearances. The multiplicity is the result of precision, not the absence of it. A less precise carving would produce a face that looks approximately the same from most angles. This carving does not look approximately the same. This carving changes, and in changing, it holds not one thing, but the geometry from which all the things emerge. The single physical configuration that is the ground of all the readings, that does not favor any of them, that makes each one available in turn to whoever stands in the right place at the right moment, with the right quality of light falling across the carved planes and into the carved hollows. The wood holds still, the readings pass through it. The face is both of these simultaneously. The thing that does not move, and the thing from which movement is generated. The fixed point around which every reading turns. This is what was carved into the wood. Not a face, a fixed point. The wood holds still. The readings do not. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. When night falls, the archive remains. When night falls and sound withdraws, the archive remains. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. There is a room where things are kept, not displayed, not used, kept. The distinction matters. Display implies an audience, something arranged for someone to encounter, positioned at a height and angle that serves viewing, lit to show what the displayer wants shown. Use implies a function, something available to be taken and applied and returned, or not returned. the object serving a purpose outside itself. Kept implies neither. To keep is to hold in place, to maintain the existence of something beyond the moment that produced it, to refuse the natural tendency of things to disperse, degrade, and disappear. The room is arranged for keeping. The shelves are not decorative, they are structural. The minimum framework required to hold objects off the floor, to separate one layer of kept things from another, to allow access without disturbance of what surrounds the accessed object. The shelves do not care what they hold what they are given. A shelf that holds a manuscript holds it with the same indifference it would bring to holding a stone, a bone, a length of cloth. The shelf performs support. It does not perform understanding. Every object in this room was brought here by a decision. Someone decided that this thing was worth keeping, not permanently. The decision to keep is never permanent, because the keeper is not permanent. And when the keeper is gone, the kept things depend on the next keeper's decision to continue keeping them. The decision to keep is renewed, implicitly, every day that the kept thing remains in its place and no one decides otherwise. Inertia is a form of decision. The archive persists because no one has yet decided it should not. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. Consider the first object in the archive. It was placed here before anything else. Before the archive was an archive. Before the accumulation was large enough to require a system. Before the system required a room. Before the room required a name. The first object was simply kept in whatever space was available by whoever decided it was worth keeping. The archive grew around it. The archive became what it is because of the accumulation of decisions that followed the first decision, each one adding to the mass of kept things until the mass required organization, and the organization required space, and the space became a room, and the room became a place with a purpose. The first object is still here. It has aged. Every object in the archive has aged. That is the nature of objects in time, which is the nature of all objects without exception. The first object has aged more than any other, has been subject to more cycles of humidity and temperature, has accumulated more of the slow chemical changes that time produces in all materials. It is not what it was when it was placed here. It is what it has become, which is the same object having passed through more time than any other object in this room. The archive's oldest object is also the archive's most changed object. The longest kept is the most transformed by keeping. Preservation and transformation are not opposites here. They are the same process at different speeds. What the archive preserves is not the object as it was. The archive preserves the object as it is becoming. The becoming is slower here than it would be outside. Slower is not stopped. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The numbering system extends beyond the last object. Every archive that uses numbers assigns them in sequence. Each new object receives the next number, the number that follows the number of the object before it. The sequence is open at one end. The last assigned number is not the last possible number. The last possible number does not exist. The sequence continues beyond the last object into the space where the next object will be placed when it arrives, if it arrives. The archive has prepared for what has not yet come. This preparation is not optimism, it is structure. The numbering system requires no belief that more objects will arrive. It requires only that the system remain open, that the next number be available, that the space for the next object exist, that the archive not declare itself complete at any point before completion is certain. Completion is never certain. The archive that declares itself complete may receive another object tomorrow. The archive that remains open may receive nothing for a century. Open and empty look the same from outside. The difference is internal. A decision about whether the sequence continues. Consider the shelf at the end of the last row. It holds the most recently kept object, which is also the object that has been here the shortest time, which is also the object that has aged the least, which is also the object closest to what it was when the decision to keep it was made. After this shelf, there are more shelves, empty shelves, shelves that hold nothing yet, that were built in anticipation of objects that may or may not come, that stand in the room performing the structure of readiness without the content of occupation. The empty shelves are not absence. The empty shelves are the archive statement about the future, that the future is expected, that space has been made for it, that when it arrives, it will find the structure already waiting. What does it mean to reach the end of the archive? Walk the length of the room, past the first object, the oldest, the most changed, past the objects that arrived after it, each one slightly less aged than the one before, each one placed at a specific time by a specific decision that is now part of the archive's history, even if that history is not recorded anywhere in the archive itself. Past the middle objects, the ones whose placement is neither remarkable for priority nor for recency, the ones that form the bulk of the kept things, the ones that the archive's purpose was most clearly designed to hold. Reach the last object. The last object has a number. The number is the highest number currently assigned in this archive. It is not the highest number possible. No number is the highest number possible. It is simply the number that follows the number of the object before it, assigned at the moment the object was brought here and logged into the system that tracks what has been brought and when and by whose decision. Past the last object, empty shelves. The empty shelves do not announce themselves as empty. They look like shelves. They have the same structure as the shelves that hold objects, the same material, the same dimensions, the same capacity to bear weight. The only difference is that no weight is currently borne. The capacity is present. The exercise of the capacity is absent. Stand at the end of the last row. Behind, everything the archive contains. Ahead, everything the archive has prepared to contain. The line between them is the last object, an object that did not know when it was placed here that it would be last. It may not remain last. Another object may arrive and be placed after it, and it will become second to last, and the archive will have extended itself by one more unit of kept things. Or nothing may arrive, and the last object will remain last, and the empty shelves will remain empty. Both are possible from this position. Neither is visible from this position. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The archive does not know what it contains. This is not a failure of the archive. The archive is not the kind of thing that knows. The archive is shelves and objects, and the numbering system that connects them, and the room that holds all of these, and the decisions that brought each object here. None of these components has knowledge. The numbering system is marks on paper or entries in a ledger, symbols that point to objects, that allow a person to find an object by consulting the system, that impose order on the accumulation, so that the accumulation does not become simply a mass of kept things with no access. The knowledge is in the system. The system is not alive. The system holds the knowledge the way a shelf holds an object. By providing the structure within which knowledge can exist, without participating in the knowledge itself, a person consulting the archive knows what the archive contains by consulting the system. Without the person, the system still exists. The system still points accurately to the objects. The objects are still in the places the system says they are. But without a consulting person, the pointing has no destination. The accuracy has no audience. The knowledge exists in a form that cannot be called knowledge, because knowledge requires a knower, and there is none. The archive in an empty room is a structure with no function being performed. The structure remains. The function waits. What waits in the archive is not the objects. Objects do not wait. Objects persist. What waits is the function, the capacity to be consulted, to yield what is sought, to allow the kept things to be found by the one who seeks them. The archive is patient in the way that only non-living things can be patient, which is to say, it is not patient at all. It simply persists, and persistence in a thing without awareness is indistinguishable from patience to those who observe it from outside. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. The archive accumulates its own history. Every object that passes through the archive, brought in, consulted, returned, kept, leaves a record. The record may be explicit, a log entry, a consultation slip, a date stamped on an access card. The record may be implicit, the slight compression of the shelf material where the object rests, the faint mark on the object's surface where hands have touched it repeatedly at the same point, the barely perceptible path worn into the floor between the entrance and the most frequently consulted objects. The archive records its own use, not intentionally. The compression of the shelf material is not a decision to record. The worn path on the floor is not a system. These are the physical consequences of repeated contact, of weight applied to the same point across many instances, of friction between foot and floor accumulated over many passages. The archive's record of its own use is written in the materials of the archive by the physics of use, without any archivist deciding to write it. The archive is also an archive of itself. What the archive contains includes, invisibly, the history of how the archive has been used, which objects were consulted most, which were rarely sought, which were brought here and never looked at again, which were worn smooth by frequent handling, and which retained the texture of their original surface, because no hand had touched them since the hand that placed them here. This history cannot be read from a catalogue. This history is in the objects and the shelves and the floor. It requires touch to read, and proximity, and time spent in the room noticing what the room has recorded about itself. The archive has kept itself. No one decided this. Physics decided this in the way physics decides everything, by being the condition under which all things occur. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. At night, the archive is complete. Not finished, complete. The distinction again. Finished implies that no more will be added, that the accumulation has reached its terminus, that the sequence has closed. Complete implies that what is here is fully here, present in its entirety, nothing temporarily absent, everything in its place. At night, when the archive is closed, and the consultors have gone and the objects rest undisturbed on their shelves, the archive is complete in this sense. Everything the archive contains is here. Nothing is checked out, nothing is in transit. The archive is at this hour entirely itself. The empty shelves are also here, entirely themselves, entirely empty, entirely ready. The numbering system is here, its sequence open at the high end, its lowest number pointing to the first object and its highest number pointing to the last, with all the numbers between them pointing to all the objects between them, every pointer accurate, the whole system in a state of perfect correspondence between symbol and thing. The room is quiet, not silent. The building makes sounds, the air makes sounds. The small adjustments of materials under changing temperature make sounds too faint to identify as anything specific, but quiet in the sense that nothing is being done here. The archive's function, to allow kept things to be found, is not being performed. The function is available. It is simply not currently being called upon. The archive rests in its availability. This is what the archive does at night, and has done through every night since it was established, and will do through every night that follows, until the night when it's decided that the archive is no longer needed, or the night when the building that holds it can no longer hold it, or the night, centuries from now, or decades, or tomorrow. There is no way to know when the kept things are dispersed to other keeping, or to no keeping at all. Until that night, the archive continues. The objects persist on their shelves. The empty shelves persist in their readiness. The numbering system holds its sequence open. The last number assigned points to the last object. The next number waits for what has not yet arrived. The space after the last object is not empty in the way that space with no purpose is empty. It is empty in the way that a prepared place is empty, structured, ready, holding the form of what it expects without knowing whether what it expects will come. End without end, not the end that closes, the end that remains open, the end that is indistinguishable from continuation, that looks from outside like a pause in a sequence that may resume, that holds the last number and the empty shelf and the prepared space with the same indifference it holds everything else. The archive does not know if it is finished. The archive does not know anything. The archive simply holds what it holds and waits with the patience of structure for what may come. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. There is a room where things are kept. The first object is here, at the beginning of the first row, the most aged, the most changed, the one that has been kept the longest, and is therefore the least like what it was when keeping began. The last object is here, at the end of the last row, the least aged, the most like what it was when the decision to keep it was made. Between them, everything the archive has accumulated, in the order it arrived, numbered in sequence, resting on shelves that hold without preference. After the last object, the empty shelves. After the empty shelves, the wall that ends the room. The wall is not the end of the archive. The wall is the end of the room. The archive ends before the wall, ends at the last object, or ends at the last empty shelf prepared for an object that has not arrived, or does not end at all because the sequence remains open, and an open sequence has no end, only a current position beyond which the next position has not yet been reached. The archive is at its current position. The current position is not the final position. The final position is not known. The archive continues from its current position in the only direction available to it, forward, into the empty shelves, into the prepared space, into the open end of a sequence that was designed to extend beyond whatever it currently contains. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The room is quiet. The objects rest. The empty shelves hold their readiness. The last number waits for the next. When night falls, the archive remains, not as monument, not as conclusion, as continuation, as the structure that persists between one consultation and the next, between one kept thing and the thing that will be kept after it, between the current end and the end that has not yet arrived. The archive remains, open at one end, ready. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. When night falls, the archive remains. When night falls and sound withdraws, the archive remains. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. A room has been built to absorb, not to contain. Containment is what ordinary walls do, holding sound inside a space, allowing it to reflect and return and accumulate into the acoustic character that every enclosed space develops over time. Not to dampen. Dampening is what soft surfaces do, reducing the intensity of reflection without eliminating it, making a room quieter without making it silent. This room was built to absorb, to take the sound that arrives at its surfaces and convert it entirely to heat, to accept without returning, to receive without reflecting. The walls do not return what they are given. Neither do the floor and the ceiling. In every direction, absorption. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. The surfaces are not flat. Flat surfaces reflect cleanly. A sound wave arriving perpendicular to a flat wall returns perpendicular. the angle of incidence equaling the angle of reflection, the wave departing in the direction it came. This room was not built with flat surfaces, because flat surfaces cannot absorb completely. What this room has instead are forms that project inward from every surface. Long wedge shapes, each one a gradual taper from wide base to narrow point, each one oriented so that its point faces the interior of the room. A sound wave entering the space between two wedges does not encounter a single surface. It encounters an angle, a narrowing channel that redirects the wave inward toward the point of the wedge, away from any path that would allow reflection back into the room. What is not absorbed on first contact enters the channel further, encounters the wedge material again at a different angle, loses more energy. What survives this second contact enters further still. The geometry of the wedge is designed so that very little survives to emerge from the channel, and what does emerge is too diminished to contribute meaningfully to the acoustic environment of the room. The room absorbs in depth, not at the surface. Absorption is not a wall. Absorption is a geometry. The material of the wedges is chosen for its capacity to convert sound energy to heat. Open cell foam or mineral wool or other substances whose internal structure allows sound waves to penetrate and dissipate through friction between the wave and the material's fibers. The conversion is real. Sound arrives, enters the material, agitates the fibers, generates heat measured in fractions of a degree too small to feel. The sound becomes warmth. The warmth disperses into the material. The material does not remember the sound. Sound arrives. Sound becomes heat. Heat disperses. Nothing returns. In ordinary space, a sound persists beyond its source. Strike an object. The object vibrates, disturbs the air, produces a pressure wave that travels outward. The wave reaches the nearest wall, and a portion of it is reflected back into the room. The reflected wave travels until it reaches another surface and reflects again. Each reflection loses some energy to the surface material, but enough returns that the room holds the sound for a duration after the source has stopped vibrating. This duration is the room's reverberation time, the time it takes for the reflected sound to diminish below the threshold of audibility. Every room has a reverberation time. Every room holds its sounds for some duration after they end. Every room carries, at any moment, the acoustic residue of the recent past. A voice speaking in an ordinary room is heard with its reflections, the direct sound arriving first, the reflected sounds arriving fractions of a second later, the accumulated reflections creating a fullness, a sense of the voice occupying the space, filling it, being present in it in a way that a voice in open air is not. The room participates in the voice. The room adds itself to the voice. The voice in the room is never purely the voice. It is always the voice plus the room's response. In this room, the response has been removed. A voice here is only the voice. The direct sound travels from the source to the nearest wedge surface and is absorbed. No reflection returns. No residue accumulates. The voice does not fill the room. The voice travels from the source outward in all directions and disappears into the wedges before it can return, before it can accumulate, before it can create the sense of presence that reflection produces in ordinary space. The voice ends when the source stops, not after. When. This is a different kind of ending than the one ordinary rooms permit. In ordinary space, the end of a sound is a gradual thing. The source stops, the direct sound ends, but the reflections continue for a moment, diminishing, creating the acoustic tail that marks the transition from sound to silence. The room provides this tail. The tail is the room's participation in the ending, the room's contribution to the sound's departure. Here, there is no tail. The sound ends at the source. The room does not participate in the ending. The room does not participate in anything. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. Consider what is heard in this room. The wedge surfaces absorb frequencies across the audible range. From the low frequencies that require long wavelengths and therefore large absorbing structures, to the high frequencies that shorter wedges handle. The design of this room was calculated to achieve absorption across the full range of human hearing, to ensure that no frequency finds a path to reflection, that no part of the audible spectrum receives different treatment from any other part. The result is not silence. Silence would require the absence of sound sources. This room eliminates reflection, but cannot eliminate the sources that are present within it. If a person is in this room, the person is a sound source, not in the sense of speaking or moving deliberately, but in the sense of existing. The body produces sound continuously. The heart contracts, and its contraction propagates through tissue and into the air as a low-frequency pressure wave. Blood moves through vessels, and the movement is not silent. Turbulence at vessel walls, at valves, at points where vessels branch, produces sound that the body itself conducts to the ears through bone and tissue. In ordinary space, these sounds are inaudible. The ambient noise of the environment, the reflection of distant traffic, the hum of ventilation, the aggregate of all the acoustic activity of the inhabited world, masks the body's sounds completely. The body is quieter than its surroundings because the world around the body is louder still. In this room, the world around the body has been removed. Not the world's reflections. What has been removed is the room's own acoustic contribution, the reflections that in every other space add to the environmental sound and raise it above the level of the body's own emission. In this room, for the first time in most lives, the body is audible. The heartbeat arrives at the ears not only through bone and tissue, but through the air. As a pressure wave, as any sound travels, absorbed by the wedges before it can reflect but heard in the direct path from chest to ear. The blood, the breath, the small continuous sounds of a body that has always been producing sound and has never before been heard clearly in its production. The room did not add these sounds. The room removed what was covering them. What was covering them was not noise. What was covering them was the world's reflection of itself, the acoustic residue of every surface in every ordinary room, participating in every sound that passed through it. Remove the participation. What remains is the body. Breath enters, breath leaves. between breaths, the air holds its density. What the room reveals is not new. The sounds of the body have been present since the body began. They have been produced continuously, without interruption, through every moment of the body's existence, through sleep and waking, through noise and quiet, through the years of ordinary space in which they were covered by the reflections of the world. They were never absent. They were only covered. To hear them now is not to encounter something new. It is to encounter something old from which the covering has been removed. This is the room's function, not to produce silence, which it cannot do while a body is present, but to remove the acoustic covering that ordinary space provides. To strip away the room's participation in the sound environment and leave only what was already there, what has always been there, what will continue after the person leaves this room and returns to ordinary space, where the covering will be restored and the body's sounds will again recede below the audible threshold. The body's sounds do not stop when the person leaves. The covering restores. The sounds continue beneath it. Nothing that the room revealed will cease. The revelation ceases. The thing revealed continues. What was heard in the room cannot be unheard, not because the hearing changed the sound, but because the hearing changed the hearer's knowledge of the sound. The body was always producing this. The world was always covering it. The room was the interval in which the covering was absent, and the production was briefly bare. The room at night. No person is present. The wedges hold their angles. The air holds its temperature. What remains inside the room is close to the lower limit of the physically possible. Not absolute silence, which requires the absence of all thermal motion, which requires a temperature of absolute zero, which is not achievable here or anywhere accessible. What remains is the residual acoustic energy of air, whose temperature is above absolute zero, whose molecules move in the random thermal motion that any gas exhibits, whose movement produces pressure fluctuations too small to register as sound to any biological hearing system. The room is, to human hearing, silent, not empty. The wedges are here, unchanged by the absorption. The conversion of sound to heat has not altered their capacity to receive, has not warmed them measurably, has not left any record in the material of the sounds it received and converted. Every sound that ever entered this room was absorbed and left no trace in the absorbing material. The wedges that received the first sound ever produced here are the same wedges, in the same configuration, with the same capacity, that will receive the last sound ever produced here. The wedges remember nothing. The wedges hold their geometry. Geometry persists without memory. Capacity persists without record of its exercise. This is the room's deepest property. Not that it absorbs, but that absorption leaves it unchanged. Other kinds of receiving alter the receiver. Stone holds heat and is warmed by it. Paper holds ink and is marked by it. The archive holds objects and bears the compression of their weight. But this room receives sound and is not altered. Every sound that entered here completed its conversion and left the room exactly as it found it. the geometry intact, the capacity undiminished, the readiness to absorb the next sound in no way reduced by the absorption of the last. The room is always new. The room has never been used up. Receiving here does not diminish. Consider what this means for the sounds that were produced here and are now gone. They entered, were received, were converted, dispersed. They left no mark on the room and left no presence in the air. They are not here. They are not anywhere. The heat they became has long since equalized into the surrounding material, indistinguishable from the heat that was already there, untraceable back to the sound that became it. The sounds that were produced in this room and absorbed by it are more completely gone than sounds absorbed by any ordinary room, because ordinary rooms carry their residue forward in time as reverberation, as the acoustic tail that briefly holds the shape of what produced it. Here, there was no tail. Here, the conversion was immediate and the dispersal was complete. What happened here left nothing. What left nothing left the room ready. Readiness is what remains when reception is complete. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. There is a structure to this silence. It is not the silence of absence, the silence of a space that has never held sound, that simply has not yet been encountered by any acoustic event. That silence is neutral, undesigned, the silence of a space that has not yet been asked to do anything. This silence has been built. Every wedge was placed with the intention of producing this silence. Every material was selected for its acoustic properties. Every dimension was calculated to ensure absorption across the full range of human hearing. The silence is the result of deliberate design, of the intention to remove reflection, to prevent the accumulation of residue, to create a space where sound ends at its source and the room adds nothing to its continuation. The silence is the room's achievement. The room achieved it by removing itself from the equation. The room is most present when it is least audible. The room is most itself when it contributes nothing. This is the structure beneath all the structures of Chapter 2, the structure that achieves its purpose by becoming undetectable, the design that succeeds by removing every sign of its own presence, the room that functions by refusing to function as rooms ordinarily function, walls that do not return, surfaces that do not add, a geometry so thoroughly prepared to receive that the act of receiving leaves no evidence of itself. And in that geometry, the body, revealed, continuous, unsilenced by the silence. The one source the room cannot absorb because the room absorbs only what arrives at its surfaces, and the body is not arriving. The body is already here, already inside, already producing what it has always produced. The room designed to remove everything removed everything except the one thing already present. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The chamber holds its silence. No sound is present that the room produced. Every sound that entered this room ended here. No echo traveled back from these surfaces to meet the sound that made it. No residue of any previous sound mingles with the current air. The room holds no record of what it has received. No warmth from the conversion. No compression from the pressure. No mark of any kind from the sounds that entered and were taken apart and dispersed into the material as heat below the threshold of measurement. What is in this room now is only what is here now. Outside, the world reflects. Sound leaves surfaces and returns. Voices fill the spaces they occupy. The acoustic residue of the recent past persists in every room, in every corridor, in every open space where surfaces face each other and sound can travel between them and come back changed. Inside, no return. What enters, ends. What is produced here, ends here. What was ever said or sounded in this room was absorbed before it could become an echo, taken into the geometry of the wedges and converted and dispersed, and left no trace. The geometry persists, ready to receive the next sound, as it received the last, without memory of the last, without diminishment from the last, without any alteration to the capacity that will receive the next. This is the final structure, complete reception without accumulation, the structure that holds nothing, records nothing, returns nothing, and in returning nothing, holds the space open for whatever arrives next, and the thing after that, and everything that will ever be produced within these walls and absorbed and converted and dispersed, each sound complete in itself, each ending at the source, none leaving a residue that alters what comes after. Sound without echo, each sound entire, each ending clean. The room waits with the patience of geometry for the next sound to arrive and end, and leave it exactly as it found it. Ready, open, unchanged. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. When night falls, the archive remains.